Aaron Barich, have those names a little bit reversed. We'll get that squared away. Aaron Barich, she's playing mono red aggro. She's been putting opponents to the test all weekend with sheer unchecked aggression. Going to be taking on Kane Rianhard, playing this breakout deck, I would say, from this tournament. It's Bant Ramp.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Bant Ramp on camera, and it's done its thing, right? It's quite consistent. It's got a lot of early mana acceleration in the early turns. It's got a couple of answers. It's got some powerful planeswalkers. It's got the card draw. It's doing a bit of everything.
Players are ready. Aaron Barich leading on Get To Lava Runner. That's going to get in some early beats. Kane falls to 19. And Runaway Steamkin. Nice little 2-drop there for Aaron.
And, yeah, what an appropriate name for that card, right?
Yeah, it does run away.
Standard classic player.
3 mana now available. Chandra, that's fine to play onto an empty battlefield.
Jeez, this is an aggressive start right here.
Yeah, and here come the beats.
I would like to welcome you to round 6. You have 50 minutes. Please begin.
5 damage headed Kane's way. Falls to 14. Kept a hand of tapped land, tapped land. Don't know if we have some mulligan action, but you have to think there's an extremely strong play coming if Kane was finding that hand acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of strong plays that this deck's going to make off of 2 or 3 lands, right?
Leafkin Druid, not what I was expecting there, Craig.
And this is the reason to show up with the red deck, right?
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, like you're going to keep this slower hand. Maybe you're playing against Bant Scape Shift or something where the games go forever. No, punish you.
I think at this point, Kane knows what he's up against going into this matchup. Most of the players in this field know what Aaron's going to be piloting.
Well, if that's the case, which should be the case, then this is just a pretty loose keep to have in this matchup.
Feels that way a little bit to me. Don't know the rest of the texture of the hand, but maybe it's one of those hands that just pops off with an untapped land. We'll have to see as this game plays out if Kane can claw his way back in. But the beats have come fast and furious from Aaron. Kane taking some more damage here. And it's going to lead to a light at the stage. 2 real spells off the top. One of them Skewer the Critics.
Yeah, and that card's live right now.
Yes, it is.
The Steamkin can just provide all the mana that Aaron might need. This game is quickly out of control.
It seems that way to me as well. Aaron called for the mana counter. That's never a good sign.
Unless you're a fan of the red spells.
Right.
It's all about which side of the table you're sitting on.
Oh, very true. Aaron checking some math here. We're going to start removing those counters from the Runaway Steamkin. Skewer the Critics. Target Kane.
Just going after the face.
Kane goes to 9. Chandra says, Skewer the Critics again.
Oh.
Kane goes to 6. Lightning Strike. Kane goes to 3.
Yeah.
Nope, that's headed at the Leafkin Druid.
Yeah, it was lethal either way, right?
Lethal either way. Oh, no, you can block the Runaway Steamkin.
Yeah, you can block the Steamkin.
You have to do it that way.
Yeah. You're correct.
Yep.
It kind of doesn't matter either way in that scenario, right?
I totally agree with you.
What if you give your opponent another turn
Yep.
with 3 lands in play and nothing else?
And so we see a clean turn 4 kill for Aaron Barich. She's up a game.
And it's so fast. We are not ready with sideboards yet.
Right. Well, how about I read them to you? We'll start over on Aaron's side. She's got 1 Direfleet Daredevil, 3 Blood Sun, 1 Experimental Frenzy, 3 Fry, 1 Chandra Acolyte of Flame, 1 Tybalt Rakish Instigator, 2 Hijack, and 3 Lava Coil. What are you doing if you're in Aaron's seat?
So the Fries seem quite good in this matchup. They're just going to be able to pick off a lot of cards. Being able to get a creature or a planeswalker can be a pretty effective route there. The Lava Coils might come in as well. Other than that, I don't want to get too heavy on any of these other cards. Just before we came on air, you and I were talking about Hijack potentially stealing a Krasis, but that comes at the expense of sitting with a Hijack in your hand for many turns of the game before the Krasis comes down. Cards like Tybalt, where you potentially want to turn off the option for them to gain life. It seems like Tybalt's not great, especially on the draw when your opponent's ramping into some very effective spells. So I'm not a big fan of that card either. So I want to keep it slim, bring in some removal spells, but still execute the aggressive game plan here.
Erin sideboards so quickly. You can tell she's got her plan set up for every single deck. She's always ready to go. Meanwhile, over on Kane's side, we are looking at 1 Deputy of Detention, 2 Baffling Ends, 2 Aether Gust, 2 Negate, 2 Tulsamere, Friend to Wolves,
Oof.
1 Tameo, Collector of Tales, 1 Ugin the Ineffable, 2 Devout Decree, and 2 Time Wipe. What do you want to do if you're on Kane's side?
Oh, this is a good sideboard for this matchup. You get a ton of cards here. The Devout Decrees look great. The Baffling Ends look great. The Aether Gust do a lot of work in this matchup. The Tulsamere is spectacular.
Yeah.
So I can just see a ton of these cards coming in.
One of your favorite things to talk about is how deep the standard roster is. I think one of the clearest examples of that is a card like Tulsamere, which, I mean, these numbers on this card are incredible. It's got a very, very swingy effect on the battlefield, and it's seen only the smallest smattering of sideboard play, despite being so powerful.
Yeah, when I look back at my Magic career, and I think of some of the cards that I played along the way, you go back 10 years and you stick this card in Standard, and it's just going to be a 4 of in every deck.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I think of some of the Planeswalkers that you can't even play right now, and you go back in Standard, you just be like, how is this a card? But that's the world we're living in right now, where all of the Planeswalkers have gotten out of control. The creatures have had to get better to keep up with it. The removal spells have had to get better to keep up with the creatures, and everything is absurd.
Yeah, we're definitely dealing with some amped up power level right now. Well, why don't we head down to our players? It sounds like they are about ready. Get them set to go. Looks like players have kept their hands. Kane again, just a tap land.
I think with all of these answers, a lot of them also being threats, that things have just gotten so much better for the Bant Ramp deck post-board.
I would agree with that assessment. Fanatical Firebrand was the start from Barich.
Okay, so I believe Aaron has asked the judge for the text on a specific card.
Hopefully it's not that Llanowar Elves. I think Aaron knows what that one does.
Yeah, I think we all know what the elf does. This is a classic situation where you're going to use your Firebrand to finish off that elf every time, right?
You think so? You think so? I mean, you could make exceptions to that rule if you have some of the spectacle cards in hand. Maybe that's more important.
Sure. Yeah, spectacle card is one of the exceptions. But in general, the other deck's doing so much more with its mana.
Absolutely. And we are told that Aaron was checking the text on Voracious Hydra. Makes sense. That's a concerning card.
Yeah, that's
Kane's deck.
It's a good one.
Here's a Baffling End on Ember Hauler. Kane doing a much better job blunting aggression thus far.
Yeah, if you take a look at this game compared to last game, Aaron's start not as good, and Rianhard getting to be on the play, getting to have lands come into play untapped, getting to answer some of the opposing threats. Completely different game here.
Here's Leafkin Druid. That feels like a much more reasonable turn 3 play this time around than it did last time, but did miss a land drop here. And look, this Bant Ramp deck wants to hit all of its land drops.
Yep.
Despite that fact, only 24 lands. And I think for a deck that just is jam full of X spells, you could have some gripes with that setup.
You can, but you're playing Leafkin Druid, you're playing Llanowar Elves, you're playing Risen Reef.
I get it. Those cards die, though. They occasionally die. Here's a nice follow-up for Aaron. It is Runaway Steamkin, followed by Light Up the Stage. After that, Chain Whirler was able to successfully rumble.
And you got to kill this
damage.
Leafkin if you can.
Yeah, you think so? Lava Runner going to be the play.
Aaron does not have the 3 damage spell.
So let's see if Kane has a big 5-drop. Something like Tulsimir would be huge here.
Yeah.
I see a decent option. It's Devout Decree. That'll deal with the threat from that Steamkin. Kane looks like he's leaving Negate up. Not sure he had another option.
Yeah, it might be out of necessity rather than a part of the game plan here.
Yep.
And I like this. So I believe that Aaron has a Fanatical Firebrand in her hand.
Here's Negate on that Light Up the Stage. Follow-up play, though. It's Goblin Chain Whirler.
Yep, and getting that block.
Firebrand, yep. Huge, huge swing there. Able to take down that Leafkin Druid when Kane is really struggling on mana once again.
Yeah, and we were talking about how the matchup just must get so much better after board. Not if you can't cast your spells.
Right. One of the classic vulnerabilities of a deck relying. Oh, what a top deck for Aaron. Experimental Frenzy. Just the perfect card in that scenario. Nothing more you could ask for. And Kane completely under the gun at this point.
Just week in and week out, Aaron shows us that this red strategy is still legit.
Oh, yeah.
And I think everyone wants to do the newer, flashier thing.
Red deck's powerful.
It's powerful, and we see Aaron play better than some players. I'm not trying to take shots at anyone, but there's room for play with this deck. There's skill to be had.
Absolutely. Yeah, go watch Aaron's match against Ross from yesterday. She played phenomenally.
Yep.
And also, I think it was a great display of the deck's just raw power, the combination of Runaway Steamkin and Experimental Frenzy. At one point, Aaron had all 4 of her Runaway Steamkins on the battlefield, just completely went off. Do have our first result from one of the other matches. It's Rudy Briksza up a game against Casey Lancaster in the 4-color Delver versus Lands matchup. And Kane just passes the turn back here. Aaron reveals Lightning Strike. That is going to do it. You got to feel for Kane there. Not the smoothest of draws.
It is frustrating when you feel like, all right, game 1 is kind of bad for me, but game 2 gets so much better. It swings the matchup way in my favor,
right.
And then you just don't cast spells.
Yeah, brutal beats there. And I know Kane feels this matchup is favored for Bant Ramp. And we can understand why. You saw the cards available, especially after sideboarding, just such huge options in things like Tulsimir. Obviously, all the removal stuff. Devout Decree is a very clean answer to a lot of what Aaron does. So,
yeah, I mean, you start with some good tools in the life gain, card advantage in the body of the Hydroid Krasis. The Voracious Hydra is a great removal spell and threat, but it's post-board where you really feel like it just swings in your favor.
I think we're going to go head over for some legacy action. It seems like the players are just about to start game 2. Play much lands, Craig?
No. So this is one of the few decks where the financial constraints of it have kept me out of it. There have been points where I've been interested in playing lands, but it's just been, a handful of cards. You talk about the cost of like Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale, the cost of help me out here. The Mox
Mox Diamond.
Thank you.
Now $200 a piece.
Yeah, like
plus.
I hadn't scooped those up
Yep.
back when they were too expensive at $100 each.
Right.
And now it's just not really a possibility.
No, definitely one of the more costly decks in Legacy. You know who's played a lot of lands? Casey Lancaster plays that deck almost exclusively, plays it very, very well. And we'll have to see if he thinks he can take down this 4-color Delver matchup. Usually when Delver gets popular, that's a great time for lands to start showing up. Typically, it has a completely fine matchup there. You want to avoid lands when combo is the thing.
Okay, sure.
And Delver typically preys on combo.
Yep. We're kind of in a different world now. We see all of these decks being built just a little bit different because of Wrenn and 6.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like that just changes the landscape so much. It feels like a lot of these Delver decks can transition smoothly from being an aggressive deck to being a controlling deck, with Wrenn and 6 being the card in the middle that allows them to shift back and forth.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good analysis. And if you want to hear more analysis, maybe not on the scale of someone like Craig, who obviously one of the foremost minds of the game. But we do have a pretty decent staff of writers over on SCG Premium. Somehow they let me write over there, so you get to read my articles. You'll see folks like Jerry Thompson, Brad Nelson, Ross Merriam, so many great, great players from the SCG Tour, from really Magic's history, writing on the premium side for Star City Games Premium. Paulo Vitor Damo de Rosa just joined our writing staff. Maybe the best Magic writer of all time.
It kind of blows my mind, not just the level of theory that he brings to the table, but it's entertaining to read, and he's writing in English, which is not his first language.
It's truly mind-blowing. Spectacular author, and has joined the stable over at Star City Games Premium. Become a member today. You get instant access to our exclusive content, the ad-free experience over on the website, and a plus 5% discount on Star City Games purchases. Go.starcitygames.com/premium to check that out. 5% discount comes in handy if you want to fire off an order for a bunch of alpha twiddles, say, or
yeah, alpha twiddles.
Yeah,
don't be ridiculous. No one's buying up alpha twiddles.
I'm sure some idiot out there is spending his hard-earned money on
all
alpha
right,
twiddles.
We're not calling people idiots in our stream.
Okay, sorry. I take it back. Anyone who was that foolish, I take it back.
Maybe they just have foresight. Maybe they know more than someone else knows.
I highly doubt that. Very highly doubt that.
It sounds like you know who bought these alpha twiddles.
It was me. Look, I don't know that I'm ever going to play with the Twiddle Storm deck, but if I do, my Twiddles have to be alpha. Like, it would be just disrespectful to the history and greatness of the game to show up with any other Twiddle.
Yeah, what I like is that you actually... You can't stop yourself.
I cannot. No.
It's almost like a sickness. Like, we need a support group for people that have to buy up foils and alpha versions.
Right.
You know, it's like, hey, I've got this deck built, man. You want to just borrow it? You can play it. And you're like,
no thanks. I'll buy it in alpha and foil. Appreciate it. Yeah. Look, we all have our vices, Craig. Some people drink. Some people smoke. Some people gamble. I buy a bunch of Magic cards. It's my thing.
Yeah, I feel like I don't want to group our collecting in with those other vices, but you've done it, so there's that.
Yeah, it's out there now. Not much we can do to put that back in the bottle. But assume players are on some degree of mulligans here. Seemed like they were pretty close to ready a moment ago. Yeah, they're both on 6. A lot of people hyped on lands right now. The lands heads are pumped. I spoke to Jarvis Yu. Seems like Wrenn and 6 was a pretty big get for the deck, and you can certainly understand why. Casey Lancaster only with 2 copies, but you see a lot of your deck with land strategies. You just need to have access to it eventually. You don't need to have it right away.
Yeah, it's funny because the lands deck, you want to play so many lands that it really restricts the other cards that you put in your deck.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of interesting cards that just don't end up being included as 4-ofs that you might think would be 4-ofs.
Even 1-ofs. You think about how many 1-ofs have historically showed up in this lands deck. You used to see Seismic Assault from time to time. Just weird cards that you wouldn't expect to be there. They made their way in. I remember Tireless Tracker being main deck for a brief period. So it's an odd deck. It's always been one of the highlights of the Legacy format for me. I think that it can exist being so odd and having this game plan that looks like nothing else on the planet, but still the power level is there. Like, this is a powerful, powerful deck. It just happens to play 35 lands.
Yeah, I mean, when I brew a new deck, I often have this problem where I start writing down cards, and I end up with like 50 cards I want to play in this deck, and
Sure.
I haven't added lands yet. I couldn't brew the lands deck, right?
This one would be hard for you.
You start with 35 plus lands in your deck. It doesn't give you a lot of room for innovation in there.
Right. Right. You have to be very judicious with your slots. Okay, I think players have finally settled on some keepable hands. There you see we have started on Casey Lancaster's side. Mox Diamond, going to be the start. Craig, envious, can't afford those.
It's so true.
I actually just bought mine, and I also have Japanese ones. I think they're beautiful. I love old Magic cards. I really do. There's just something so special about that era.
Yep.
The beautiful artwork.
The different border. Yeah.
There's a nice old Magic card coming into play in Rudy Briksza's side. Beautiful black-bordered volcanic island. It's going to cast Delver of Secrets.
There's more cards I can't afford.
Add it to the list.
The black border duels, even the foreign black border ones that are, a fraction of the price of the alpha betas, still out of my price range.
Oh, they are incredibly pricey.
Honey, if you're at home listening to this, surprise me.
The perfect birthday treat for the SCG commentator that has everything. Black bordered dual lands. Here's Thespian Stage from Casey Lancaster, and that always has to give you fear.
Yeah, that's a worrisome one.
On the other side of the battlefield. Delver bringing the early beats, though, and that's pretty key in this matchup. You want to get damage in early. As the game goes long, it certainly favors the lands player. They will figure out something to do to blunt your offense, to punish you, to make it impossible for you to win the game. There's so many options, and here's just Dark Depths. So now we're threatening 2020. And on upkeep, we are going to make a 2020. And it's going to happen. And now Rudy Briksza is being put to the test. Probably has 2 turns to find an answer. But he's got to have it. Start with Wasteland.
Oh, and he's got it.
He's got it. That's Liliana's Triumph. Going to go get a black source and cast that one. Rudy Briksza is, in fact, 4-color Delver this time. Has access to that powerful, powerful sacrifice effect. And Casey Lancaster back to square one. These decks can rebuild. They have things like Life from the Loam.
Yep. But at this is worse than square one, right? This is almost square zero.
Yeah, definitely behind right now. There you see Bajuka Bog. That's going to exile graveyards. And here comes Insectile Aberration doing a bit more damage. Rudy fires off Brainstorm here. Another Wasteland. That's going to answer Bajuka Bog.
And this is an aggressive Wasteland.
It absolutely is. But as I mentioned, Briksza has a short window. You don't want this game to go long. Comes the Delver again. Another Brainstorm.
Yeah, the Wasteland is traditionally just your safety net. Often it's better to just have the Wasteland on the board, breaking up the combo, than it is to pick off a card like Bajuka Bog.
Bunch of depths counters there. A few too many if you ask me, but don't think it's going to be super relevant.
It's extra hard to wake up
Right.
Merrill Age, right? That's who's sleeping in the ice block.
You are correct.
And you know the lore behind this?
Maybe some small sliver of it, but not specifics, no.
Oh, gosh. So I'm going to tell you what I know.
Okay.
And then we're going to get just like...
Crucified?
Yeah, tweet it out a bunch or whatever the chat will get us for apparently Merrill Age was just like too powerful of a wizard,
Okay, so you encase him in ice.
like apparently more powerful than even the planeswalkers, and their solution was sticking him in an ice cube.
Love it. Works for me. Here's a crop rotation from Casey Lancaster. There you see those additional dice finally making their way off. Casey probably going to attempt another Merit Lage. Nope, it's Mazavith. Life total's too low, has to protect. Makes sense. I believe that Lightning Bolt put him down to 4. Looking to blunt some of the offense coming from Briksza. Meanwhile, we have a result in Modern. Alexander Beebe up a game. No game wins on the side of Lancaster, Whitehouse, and Rianhard yet.
And that must have been a slugfest there, huh?
Yeah, long one. Comes that Delver again. Mazavith available. See a Tarmogoyf in Briksza's hand.
Yeah, that's the trade-off, right? When you play this 4-color mana base, you have access to so many more powerful cards,
Yeah.
but your lands just aren't nearly as good.
Briksza has a little bit of time right now. Has that Tormod's Crypt rolled up. Going to be able to prevent the first life from the loam. Lancaster without a second source of mana right now, too, so.
Yeah, Life from Loam or Wrenn and 6 initially turned off by the Tormod's Crypt.
Here's another Mox Diamond. Looks like Briksza having to think about this one. Does let it resolve.
Yeah, I think he was thinking about investing the double days.
Could understand where he's coming from.
Yeah, the dazes just get so much worse as the game goes on.
Yep.
You let that card resolve, and it makes the days worse as well. So there is some argument to be made.
Well, here's a green source for Rudy Briksza, and that means going to be able to go ahead, cast Wrenn and 6. Wrenn and 6 going to bring Wasteland back to Briska's hand. Unable to deploy it here. Already played his land for the turn. So a very small window for Lancaster. Takes his draw. Can't quite make it out.
I think he drew a Punishing Fire, which is a little awkward at this point in the game.
Here's Wasteland on that Mazavith. Wrenn and 6 techs up, brings Wasteland back to hand. Punishing Fire on Insectile Aberration. Here's days number 1. That gets paid for. Here's days number 2. That can't be paid for. And Delver's going to stay alive. Casey Lancaster at just 1 life.
Well, the Wrenn and 6 could have finished this game, couldn't it?
Been used for the turn, so not now. Is it player or creature, or is it just creatures?
I thought it was any target.
Let's bring it up.
Any target.
Any target. Okay. Yeah, there's an option there.
So
Ultimately,
yeah, Rudy
splitting
gave him an
hairs.
extra turn, but it did not matter.
Yep, splitting hairs. And the team of Briksza, Beebe, and Barich keeps their hopes alive. Like we said, probably need another win, but they're still in it. And the team of Lancaster, Whitehouse, Rianhard, going to be